All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David. We are here today with financial aid secrets. Now, you might see something on this screen that you have not seen before, and it is Eagle Lock, right? So, our parent company has officially changed their name to Eagle Lock. Now, you might be thinking, what the heck is Eagle Lock, right? Now, I'm going to tell you this, and every time you see our logo from now on, you're going to understand kind of the secrets behind it, right? Before, we were college admission secrets. We wanted to get all the secrets out there to you, right? We were financial aid secrets, right? Because again, we want to uncover all those kind of like tricks and mysteries for you, right? Eagle Lock is our way of kind of showing that we want to crack the college code, right? For those of you that you don't know, I am also the head coach in our coaching program, right? And also running the financial aid secrets division. Okay. Now, if you look at Eagle Lock, right? If you actually flip it around, it's actually college. Okay. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. Now, if you guys can help me out a little bit at the start of this presentation by putting your child's grade into the chat, right? Nothing's going to change, right? Our name changed, right? Our presentation changed a little bit, the color scheme changed, but everything is exactly the same. I am here to make sure you guys have the utmost information about financial aid. Okay. You'll also probably be seeing me in our other kind of trainings, whether that's on college admissions or the Ivy Leagues, whatever it might be. You will see me in there as well. Now, with that, okay, so thank you guys for putting your grades in the chat. I see seventh graders here. I see 10th grader. I see 11th grader. Okay, so great, 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 great. Okay. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about what we're going to be doing today. And today it's about the new FAFSA, what to expect, what to do. Also, there's some tricks involved, okay? So it is January 8th, right? So I wish everyone a happy new year. This is our first financial aid secrets of 2025, right? We are going to have 51 more after this, right? Obviously, if there's a holiday, I am going to take it off, but otherwise, I will be here, okay? So let's talk about kind of what we're going to go over today, right? So agenda, what's going on with financial aid. So I always like to talk about a little financial aid news, what's going on, right? Because a lot of people, well, you're not spending your time going into, Google and searching financial aid news, but I am, okay? Also, we're going to talk about what's going on with FAFSA and then how you need to prepare, right? Now, we will have a Q&A section at the end, right? So you can go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I will make sure to get to them at the end of our presentation, okay? Now, we have replays, right? A lot of people message us saying, "Oh my gosh, like why can't you guys do it at a different time? We're never able to come." We have replays available and we make it very, very public that we do, right? So if you're in our Facebook group, we will have a post in our Facebook about this, our call, right? All you have to do is respond. Coach Joanna, who's in the Facebook all the time, will reach out to you and say, "Hey, do you want the link?" And then we'll send the link to the replay over to you. If you're one of our, coaching families, right, it will be in our private YouTube channel for you to watch at your leisure. Okay. Now, a little bit about me, because I see a lot of new names in here, right? So I am a former college and law school admission reader, right? That's where the college part came in, right? And so I've been working with students for the last 16 years, right? Now, as far as kind of the other kind of hats I wear, I'm a former lawyer, right? College guru, self-proclaimed, right? And financial aid master, right? So I have been doing financial aid for just a year under. So it's now my 15th year. Okay. I have been able to save families millions of dollars, right? Even just this last year. Okay. So I want to make sure that everyone is on the right track to do the same. Okay. Now, first off, Happy New Year to all our families. Okay. 2024, a lot going on in the world, right? It's time to put it behind us, right? But there's also some sad news that I want to share, right? There's a really big fire, multiple fires going down that are happening in Southern California, right? So our thoughts and prayers at everyone at Eagle Lock go out to those families that are affected by this fire. If you need any help or need someone to talk to, I know a lot of our families are in the Southern California region and you're dealing with different things. Please reach out to us. We are here to listen. We are here to help in any way we can. Okay. All right. So, with that, I do want to make sure that I give you guys some news. Now, it's not as juicy as previous months, but there's still some things going on. right? Now, as I have been looking through the financial aid news, there's more and more colleges coming up with plans to try and bring students to their school, okay? Whether it's offering free tuition, right? Or making sure that there's no loans offered, whatever it is, colleges are trying to find a way to increase their student count, right? At the end of the day, colleges are businesses. Even though they might be set up as nonprofits, right? They are, at the end of the day, they need to keep the doors open and the lights on, okay? So they do want to have students coming, okay? Now, most recently, the kind of like bigger name school that kind of changed their policy as far as tuition and those sorts of things was that MIT put out a statement saying that if your family makes under $200,000 a year, you can attend MIT for $0 in tuition, right? Making the cost of attending that school probably the equivalent to going to a state school in your home state. Okay. So colleges are feeling the burn just as much as anyone else, right? There's a lot of families that are kind of saying, hey, you know what? We're going to take a different option. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do community college to 4-year options, right? There's a lot of different pathways out there that are more cost efficient. So colleges are looking to kind of figure out how they can get students to come. Now, here is another thing that I really, really do want to point out because most of the people that come into our kind of, consultations, most of the families that I talk to kind of in our presentations, right? They're kind of part of, for lack of a better word, the middle class, right? Middle class incomes, right? Now, for the FAFSA and other financial aid forms, the rates for lower income families have rebounded to normal rates. And when I talk about normal rates, I'm talking about during the pandemic there was a lot of families that just didn't apply for financial aid because it didn't pertain to them because their kid was taking a year off or they're going to community college to stay close to home and safe, whatever it is, right? But there was a huge drop in students applying for financial aid during the pandemic, right? Now, the lower income families, that has rebounded to normal rates, pre-pandemic rates, but every other income category has seen a decline in financial aid completion, right? So many middle, upper income families think there's no reason for them to do it, right? But in doing so, they have left so much money on the table, right? The amount of like grant money and this money and that money that is left on the table and not taken every single year, right? Not just like, oh, it's been there since the start of financial aid in like 1930 something. No, not since then. Every single year is $2 billion. And it's not M with an M, it's B with a B. Okay. So that is a lot of money that is left there every single year. The government should say, all right, you're not going to take it. All right, okay, well, we'll just run the government off their interest, right? But that is the amount of money that is just left there. It's just sitting there, right? It's there for the taking, and people are not reaching out to try and grab it. Okay. So if there's one thing that you get from today's presentation, it's that I don't care if you make $100,000 a year. I don't care if you make $900,000 a year. You should be filling out the FAFSA. You will thank me later. Okay. Now, a very quick word, right? Now, I do see some families that are in our coaching program. I also see a lot of families here that are not in our coaching program. The reason that I wanted to kind of have a quick word from our sponsor, Eagle Lock, is because the summer will be upon us before we know it. Okay. And if your family has a junior, well, hey, you need to start preparing now for what you're going to be doing in the summer. And so, right, that's not the right slide. Where did that slide go? I don't know where the slide went, right? But the slide that I originally had here was to introduce our Kickstart and our Accelerator. Okay. Our Kickstart is a program that helps students get on track and kind of get rolling with their applications. The Accelerator is a weekend program that allows students to work on essays, that allows them to kind of fill out their applications, and so that they are ready for when the applications are actually due. Okay, so you can think of the Kickstart as literally a kick in the butt for students to get them moving on what they need to be doing. And the accelerator kind of takes them to that next level so they are closer to the finalization phase. Okay, but, right, one of the things that I want to make sure that I kind of put out there, again, I already said this, but if this is you driving around in your Ferrari or Lamborghini or Bentley or Bugatti or whatever other top, high-end sports luxury car that you have, I probably can't help you, right? And you probably don't need my help, right? But if you're like many other families that do not own an Italian stallion, right? You do need help in fighting this financial aid battle, right? I see too many families every single year reach out to me after they get their financial aid award and say, "Hey, I only got this." And I'm like, "How is that even possible?" Right? I just talked to a family last night. They're like, "This is our income. This is what we have. This is what we do." Right? My kid got an early decision, right? And they didn't get any money, right? They're telling us to pay full price. And I'm like, "How is that even possible?" Right? Because the price that they're having you pay for college is 90% of your income. It's just not feasible for your family, right? So through our trainings, right, I'm going to try to provide you guys insights and tips into how to prepare so that your family can save money. Okay. Now, before we kind of get into the new FAFSA, I want to give you a little bit of an overview on FAFSA. So here's the first thing, right? What is FAFSA? Okay. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Student Aid. Okay. So the free application for student aid, what is this? This is a gateway form. It is a form that needs to be turned in, and it needs to be turned into every type of school that you can think of. If your student's going to a state school, needs to get turned in. Private school, turned in. Art school, turned in. Vocational school, turned in. I think you get the picture here. Doesn't matter what type of school, 99% of colleges in America accept the FAFSA. So you need to get it turned in. Okay. There's literally less than 1% of schools that do not accept it. Okay. There's very particular schools, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to make sure that families know is that there are a lot of misunderstandings about the FAFSA. Okay. A lot of people think that the FAFSA is just a form to get loans. That is not the case. Okay. It needs to go in whether you're going to take loans or not. Okay. A lot of families think it's for low income families. That's not the case either. Right. They think that if you're not going to get loans, you don't need to fill out the FAFSA. That is also not a case. Now, I did a whole presentation about rumors about financial aid, about the FAFSA, about different parts of it, right? I had literally a 40-minute presentation about what people are thinking that is wrong, right? So these are just a couple of the things that are there, but again, please do not think that the FAFSA is just for certain people. It's literally for everyone. Okay. Even if you make 5, 6, 7, $8 million a year, it's still for you because in order to get something, you need to give them something. And the thing that they're asking for is this form, right? Again, there might be other forms, and we'll talk about those other forms at a later time, but this is that first one. Okay. All right. Oh, this is where I put it, right? So like I was saying, the kind of Kickstart and Accelerator, here is the kind of like layout of how it works, right? So the Kickstart is a one-day event, right? They come with their ideas and they leave with a personal statement and their PIQs for the UCs done, right? It's going to be available in April, May, and June. The Accelerator is a weekend event, right? It's a small group event where students work directly with our coaches to refine their essays and make sure that they are close to a final version. These are going to be available virtual or in person, right? Available July, August, and September. Okay. If you want more information about this, you can go to our website at www.collegeappintensive.com. Okay. Now, let's get to the new FAFSA. And the way I've titled this is FAFSA New But Messy. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying it's messy is because there are problems. But before I go into the problems and the things you have to work out for, I kind of want to introduce it to you so you know what you're getting into. Okay. So let's take a quick look at the form. I'm going to go through these very quickly. This is my own personal form, and I'm going to show you the student side of things. Okay. Now, on the student side of things, right, you're going to go, like your student's going to go log in, right, fill out the form. They're going to go ahead and click student. They're going to ask when you became a legal resident of whatever state is your home state. Now, if you are a California resident, this is very important for you to fill this out correctly, right? Just because your student was born in a different state does not make them a legal resident of that state, okay? So the place where you live with your family is your legal state of residence, okay? If the student was born in California, you would put their birth month and birth year, okay? Now, another piece of the puzzle that has changed is that they now ask you to kind of link to the IRS, right? There's no way around this. You have to do this part, okay? They're also going to ask about student personal circumstances, right? They're going to ask, are you married, remarried, separated, divorced? And again, not for parents, this is for students, right? So in different states, right? Different norms, different values. There might be students that are married already, right? Before graduating high school, right? So, no judgments, right? But there are different options here, right? There's also, different personal circumstances. Were you in the armed forces? Were you in foster care? All these different things are questions that need to be answered, right? There's also, they ask about homelessness or like, were you at risk of being homeless, right? They ask about your gender here. They also ask about your race and ethnicity and your citizenship status, right? So your race and ethnicity, they're not asking for it. And the reason I bring this up and talk about race and ethnicity is because a lot of families ask about, okay, well, does, race and ethnicity play a part in your college application? The answer is that it cannot unless you give them that information, right? Same thing for financial aid. Your race and ethnicity does not play a part. The only reason they ask for this is for research purposes. They want to know who's applying, right? And where funding needs to go. Okay. They also ask about your citizenship status. Now, another kind of big kind of like misunderstanding is that you need to be a US citizen in order to apply for financial aid. That is not the case, right? As you see in the citizenship line, there are three different options for you. You can be a US citizen or national, an eligible non-citizen, or neither a US citizen nor eligible non-citizen. Okay. And let me explain what those mean. I don't think I need to explain the first one, right? US citizen, right? So you were born here, you were naturalized as a US citizen, right? So that one, I think we all understand. Eligible non-citizen. This is commonly people that have a green card, right? Or a permanent residency status in the United States, right? Those people are also eligible for financial aid. And then neither US citizen nor eligible non-citizen, right? In California, we're pretty familiar with the deferred action kind of children, right? Children that were brought over when they were younger, by their parents. Their parents might not have legal status in the United States, but the students have been given kind of a pardon on kind of that because, well, hey, they didn't take part in that. They just followed their parents, right? So that's usually kind of the three different categories, okay? Now, if you're on a visa status, unfortunately, you are not going to be eligible for financial aid, right? If you are here on kind of like a work authorization, you will not be eligible for financial aid. Now, there are some families where it's like, yeah, it's almost time for us to get our green card, but we're not exactly sure when it's going to come out, right? So until it does come out, you're kind of considered that, as like a, international student, if you will, right? As soon as you get your permanent residency status, right? And it's not just the A number, it's not just if you have a social security number, it's when you actually get your permanent residency status, that's when things can change for your family. Okay. Parent education status, they'll ask about that, right? Again, mostly for survey purposes. And then they're also going to ask about where you went to high school, right? Were you homeschooled, GED, or did you get a high school diploma? And then they'll ask you where you got it. Okay. They'll also ask about student tax filing status, right? So when I was a high school student, right, I didn't file my own taxes. I just got filed under my parents, right? So I didn't file a kind of a tax return. Instead, my parents filed for me. Under them, I just gave them my W-2s from Starbucks, which was where I worked during high school. Okay. Now here they'll also ask about the number of students in college, right? They'll also ask about kind of like other siblings and stuff on the parents' side, right? And then they're going to ask about the schools that you want to kind of add to your list, right? Now, one of the things that you'll see is that they actually give you spots for 20 schools. Okay. That's it. Okay. And you might be thinking, well, my kid has more than 20 schools on their list. What am I going to do? We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Now, like I said, there's problems, right? And I'll tell you the problems that I have faced as an individual helping our families with financial aid. The first one is logging in, right? I have problems literally logging into the website, right? So that's the first one. There's also been a problem with saving and coming back later, right? So there might be times where I need to like save and come back later. It's not letting me do that. I have to start the form over from scratch, right? The third problem is that it seems to be a glitch in the information being transmitted from the IRS to your form, right? Now, this was a problem that was there even before they changed to the new FAFSA 2 years ago, and it's still happening now. I don't know why they can't fix this, okay? And then finally, more than ever this year, I've been having issues with identity matching. Okay. So you put in your name, right? First name Coach, last name David, right? And then when it goes to match my social with my name, and obviously my name is not Coach David, right? But if it was, right, it comes back saying that they can't match my social security number, my date of birth with my name, right? So I've seen that more than ever this year, and I've called all the families and be like, "Are you sure this is the information?" Right? Now, I know that this issue occurs because, well, my mom has three birthdays, right? She has her birthday, right? I'm from Korea, right? My mom's from South Korea. She she has her like birthday within her like family of when she was born because it's like the lunar calendar that they were using. Then she has her actual birthday on her birth certificate in Korea. And then she has her legal birthday, which is the birthday on all of her immigration documents. So my mom gets to have three cakes a year instead of just one. And I don't really even get to have a cake because my birthday is during Thanksgiving, so they don't really care about me too much. Okay. So, but I've been having a lot of identity match issues right now. Okay. So I just want you to make sure that that is going smoothly for your family. The best way, if you're a senior, because I did see some seniors in the chat as well, right? Is that when you create your account, you need to get an email saying that your identity match has been successful. Okay. That means that they were able to match your first name, your last name, your date of birth, and your social security number. Okay. Now, here are some tips. And I told you I was going to tell you about the problem with the information being transferred from the IRS to the FAFSA form. Okay. Now, one of the new things that has happened on the FAFSA form is that they have a new screen, right? After you consent to the IRS pulling or the FAFSA pulling the information from the IRS, it has a little screen that says success. You have been matched and the information has been pulled, right? And then you go on to the next page, and this is on the parent side, okay? On the parent side, it says, all right, does the number of people in your family and the number of dependents, right, match what's on your tax return, right? Now, a lot of people will be like, yeah, of course it does, because that's what's on my tax return. And they'll click yes and they'll move on. Okay. Not knowing that they just got screwed. Okay. So everyone listen, this is very important. Okay. Now, if you're a family of three, right? Maybe it's, mom, dad, and a child, right? You're gonna be okay. The reason is because it auto generates three. Okay. So if you click yes to that, it's just gonna move you on to the next question. If you click no to that question, it's like, no, the number of dependents is different than what's on my tax return. You'll actually see that it defaults to three. It doesn't matter how many people are in your family. So let's say that you're actually a family of 12 people, right? And then instead of having 12 people, like, let's say it's a two-parent family, two parents, and then 10 dependents, it's going to show as two parents and one dependent. The way your financial aid is calculated is going to be very, very different depending on how many dependents are in that family. Okay. So if you are a family of greater than three, you need to make sure to click no to that question and actually put the number of dependents that is really there. Okay. So the system sucks, right? I've been saying this for the last, like, I don't know, 60 presentations that we've had, right? It does suck. And I'm sorry that it does, right? But all we can do is work within the system. Okay. But this is one of the areas that I found that is very, very kind of tricky. And it's actually going to probably screw a lot of families. I'm not sure if you guys remember all the lawsuits I was talking about, but the US Department of Education probably is going to get sued over this one too. Okay. I'm not going to bring it up with them because, well, you guys know how I feel about government giving. All right. So, pro tip two, right? Colleges, right? Now, one of the things I showed you before was that you're able to add in 20 colleges. Okay. Again, I'd probably say a good majority of our students are applying to more than 20 individual college campuses. Okay. Now let's think about that from a kind of logical standpoint. You're like, how can you even reach 20 campuses? Well, here it is, right? Let's say that your student applies to all the UCs. That's nine already, right? Let's say they apply to three or four state schools. That's 13, right? Let's say they apply to 10 private schools. That's already 23. You've already hit that 20 college barrier. Okay. When inputting the colleges, you have to put each individual campus down. Just like let's say you're applying to all the UCs, right? All nine of them. You can't just turn it into Berkeley and then they share information. The UCs actually don't share any information. So you need to send it in at Berkeley, LA, San Diego, Santa Barbara, Davis, Merced, Riverside, Irvine. You need to send it to every single one separately. Okay. Now, then your question might be, well, how do I add more than 20? Well, you need to be proactive, right? You turn in your first 20, right? And it takes anywhere, I've been seeing anywhere between 3 to 7 business days for them to fully review, process, and then send it out to the colleges. Okay. So that's 3 to 7 business days. And then you come back to it, right? And you'll see that it has been submitted and that it has been processed. Okay. Once that happens, it will allow you to create corrections on your FAFSA form. What you need to do is go into the FAFSA form, go in, remove some of the colleges where it's already been submitted, and then replace those with the colleges that have not been submitted yet. Okay, so why did they do it this way? I'm not sure, right? They could have just let us list 40 or 50, right? I'm not sure, like, I don't know. Maybe their server can't handle it, right? I'm not exactly sure what it is, but nevertheless, that's what you have to do to turn in more than 20 colleges. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was a little bit of a help in kind of helping you guys understand part of the FAFSA. Again, I'll come back kind of like next week to talk about the parent FAFSA, about the CSS profile, about a bunch of other things that definitely can help you guys, right? But I want to make sure that you guys know how we can help. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong ones, right? So the first thing is make sure to stay in touch. Okay. We are here to support families, right? Reach out on Facebook, Discord, email, any way that's possible to like kind of ask us questions, right? You're never going to get the answers you need if you just sit there and just wait, right? And hope that I talk about it in one of my presentations, right? So just go ahead and reach out to us, right? We do not bite, right? And we're also going to have a Q&A at the end of the session today. So please make sure to ask your questions there, right? You cannot go into this blind, right? Again, like I told you, I already have dozens of families that have reached out because they didn't get the results they had expected for early action, early decision, asking me to help. But once they have already gone in and muddied the waters by doing something and I don't know what they did, right? There's very little I can do to change that situation unless there is a blatant error or there's something that is totally off, right? So if you're one of those families that's like, oh, well, I'm getting ready for financial aid, it just opened, a couple of weeks, kind of like about a month ago, so I'm about to turn it into schools. You probably shouldn't touch anything. Don't turn anything in until we have had a conversation. Okay. So please, please, please talk to us because we can help. Whether that's giving you advice or tips or telling you about our service and how we can help, whatever it is, we can help in some sort of way. Okay. So I want to make sure to open it up for kind of questions. So I already see a couple right now. So if you guys do have questions, go ahead, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat so that we can kind of go over them. And if you guys are interested in kind of our Kickstart and Accelerator, you can text college for info on our college admissions programs. And the number is right here. It's 949-298-6234. Okay. If you are interested in booking a consultation with us, text money, right, for info on financial aid and to set up a consultation. Okay. So at this time, I do want to open it up for Q&A, right? So I'll kind of start with a couple. If you guys do have any other ones, please make sure to put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Okay. So the question here is, can you repeat about the number of dependents again? So the number of dependents, it doesn't matter what's at. So okay, let me kind of back up. Let me kind of make this more logical. Everything on the FAFSA leads you to believe that the FAFSA form is pulling information from the IRS based on your tax returns. Okay? That's what everything does. It tells you that you need to give consent. There's a little button that says success, your information has been pulled from the IRS, right? And then when you get to the dependent section, right, what ends up happening is that there's a question that says, is the number of dependents on your tax return the correct number, right? And so if you go in and look at that question for parents that are currently working on it, you can go ahead and click yes, and it'll take you to the next question, which is about something else, right? How many kids are going to be in college at the same time, right? But if you actually click no, you'll see that when you click no, the default answer that's given there is 3, right? Which it means that, well, that's the number that they're pulling off your IRS kind of tax return, right? Now, for your particular family, I know that it's not 3, right? So you should go and check what's going on to see if it's actually 4 or if it's 3, because every family that I've done this for, it actually says 3. Again, I have a family, they have 5 dependents, right? Their family is a family of 7, but when I clicked on no, it said 3, right? So again, it seems like that's what's getting pulled from the IRS. So I don't want families to get kind of in a bad situation because they didn't check that box, right? So when you get to the dependent question, click no, and then manually input your number of dependents in there. Okay. Now, if you are taking care of, grandparents or great uncles or great aunts or things like that, but they're not actually on your tax return, again, dependents, anyone that you give financial assistance to, right? So if there are people like that in your life, but they're not necessarily on your tax return, those are also people that you can count. Okay. So we have another question here. It says, we have a junior and are part of the Financial Aid Edge program. When should we work with you to get the financial info after the April tax deadline or this time senior year? So as far as our juniors, right? So we will start working with you as the summer starts, right? So a lot of families, and again, if your family is a junior family this year, you need to get your taxes done early because, well, I need them early. Okay. So what you will do is in the summer, we'll send you out a form, right? And in the form, it'll ask you for your personal information, all the different pieces that we need, siblings, this and that, so on and so forth, dates of birth. And then we'll also ask you to upload your tax return to us. Okay. And then once we have that, we'll set up meetings to kind of create accounts, do this, do that, so on and so forth, to make sure that we're ready to go once the fall comes. Right. Now, for the kind of class of 2026, I'm not sure when the financial aid kind of like process is going to open because, well, for the class of 2024, it was supposed to open on December 1st, right? Or let's go back. It's supposed to open on October 1st. Then it was supposed to open on December 1st. And then it was supposed to open on January 1st. And it finally opened on December like 27th. Okay. So for the class of 2025, it got delayed again, right? Class of 2026, I hope there's no delays, but hopefully I'm wrong, right? So hopefully if everything goes to plan, it should open in October, right? And then we should be done with everything by December. Okay. But during the summer is when we're going to work with you, the summer before senior year. Okay. We have another question here. Um, so I have a family asking about their situation. I worked with their older one, and they're kind of on their second, right? For your second one, if the financial situation hasn't really changed, then yeah, it's going to be pretty similar to what we did for the first one, right? But if the financial situation has changed, maybe you switch positions, maybe you decide to start your own business, maybe, there was you took a huge loss in the market, whatever it is, right? Then that can affect the amount of money that you can be getting, right? But if it's generally the same, then yeah, it's going to be generally a rinse and repeat situation. Okay. All right. So I'll do last call for questions just because I want to make sure that I do answer the questions here. Again, our time has changed. So for those of you that were so used to our 6 o'clock time slot, right? I got bumped up an hour. Okay. But hopefully you guys can still make it, right? And if you guys can't, just know that our replays will be available too. Okay. We have another question here. Um, and it says, for tax purposes, you know, declare a current as independent. So, I see. Okay. So the question that's asked in the Q&A is this. So for tax purposes, if there's like an older child that you're no longer kind of like taking care of and you're not declaring for tax purposes, can you still use them as a dependent, right? If you support them financially, right? So, well, actually, let's put it this way. If there's a student in college, right, technically they're still your dependent, right? because they're not really making money on their own. I believe as a parent, you can, unless I'm wrong, you can file for your student until they're 24, right? So if that's the case, then you should be fine, right? And yes, if they're in college right now, then yes, you should also be claiming them as your dependent. Okay. Just because they hit the age of 18 does no longer mean that they're not a dependent anymore, right? I'm just going to do a quick Google search. So looking here, yeah, so I was right. Um, so if they're a student, right? So I do see here not declining very often not declining so they can take the personal. I see, I see. So yeah, whatever makes more sense for your financial situation and your tax situation is fine. But technically speaking, if they're a student up until age 24, they can be your dependent. Okay. Here it says unless they've been emancipated. So the emancipation can happen. So if you have a child star actor and they make enough money to kind of support themselves, well, I don't know how the relationship would be because in order to get emancipated, there has to be a showing that the student is or like the child is not safe in the parent's care, right? So I don't know if they'd be asking you to fill out the financial aid forms anyway, right? Now here it says, can we choose? Prefer not to answer all the questions that have this option. Would you recommend? Okay, so for the questions that are like, oh, there's the option for like I don't want to answer or I prefer not to answer. Yeah, you can mark all those, right? There's like why like think about it and like click extra buttons. You don't need to answer them, right? And then here it says, is there any advantage for students to file their own taxes? So a lot of people think that a student filing their own taxes and being over the age of 18 makes it so that they are independent, right? But I will tell you that that is wrong. Okay? So just because they file their own taxes and are over the age of 18 does not make them independent, right? So for the purposes of financial aid, there's only a very handful of ways for a student to become an independent student, right? And so the question, or the answer to your question should be, what does it benefit more for them to be on your tax return, right? Or for them to file their own tax return if they're over 18, right? Just like how we had, the parent in the Q&A asking, right? So if it's more beneficial for you guys to not have them on your tax return and then do deductions a different way, then go down that route, right? But for purposes of filling out the forms, they're still your dependent, right? They're a student, they're under the age of 24. You can claim them as a dependent for the purposes of the financial aid forms. Okay. All right, perfect. So I don't see any other questions, right? I really appreciate you guys being here tonight, right? Again, I will be on at 5 o'clock on Wednesdays now. If you do have any additional questions, reach out to me. And if you're one of our coaching families and you need some kind of guidance or assistance, or you want to talk about financial aid, reach out to me in the Discord support channels or in your Blueprint channel, so that we can talk further and I can send you a link that you can use to book a consultation. Okay. And remember, our consultations are always free, right? We don't charge for them. We just want to kind of understand your situation and then give you advice. And then if we can't help you, we'll tell you about our services. Okay. So once again, I will leave this screen up. If you are interested in our kind of, kickstart and accelerator, text college to 949-298-6234. And if you're interested in our financial aid secrets program, go ahead and text money to 949-298-6234. Okay. So everyone have a great night. I will talk to you guys again soon and Happy New Year, everyone. Bye-bye.